This object was retrieved because it became disabled. Some of these retrieval operations are not extraterrestrial, but they would like sometimes the public to think maybe it was, because the bigger secret, I will tell you right now, is not the extraterrestrial issue. It's these technologies, which an unsupervised and frankly illegal operation have, which is a threat to the national security, period. This we will.
So that was Dr. Greer giving his perspective on these black projects and their level of illegal activities that they have been doing since the 1940s. So my whole point here with this particular video is simply to give you a quick summary about the National Press Club event led by Dr. Greer and his disclosure project. So the primary purpose of the event was to present military witnesses and or whistleblowers, as well as their testimonies of their experiences when they encountered Black Project ARVs, also known as alien reproduction vehicles. This is also to let the public know that these Black projects had been around since the 1940s, and there are two types of UAP, essentially, according to Dr. Greer and these witnesses. One type is the type that's derived from UAP crash retrievals, and they are reverse engineered using they're reverse engineered, and they utilize anti-gravity technology. Another type of UAP is the authentic type, or the NHI, also known as the non-human intelligence type. And these vehicles have been taken down in order to harvest their technology, according to everything that's been presented here. So one initiative by the Disclosure Project is to prove that these NHI, or non-human intelligence, are in fact peaceful, and they're highly evolved spiritually, socially, and psychologically, according to Dr. Greer. There's essentially no evidence that these NHI, or non-human intelligence, are hostile in any way. And this next clip will illustrate a little bit of that point.
Female. And it was made very clear to him by these beings that they were completely non-hostile. All extraterrestrial civilizations are non-hostile. If they were hostile, the technologies they have would have been made quite clear to us in August of 1945. We'll get to this in a moment.
Again, my purpose here is to just do a quick summary of the video. It's over 3 hours long, and to be honest with you, it's quite emotional. There's about 5 different witnesses that were presented. Each one is a former military or retired military, U.S. Air Force, Marine, and U.S. Army military witnesses. And their stories are quite compelling. You have to check them out. The clips that I'm going to be providing are just a small fraction of the information that they provide. And honestly, this video, this quick summary, doesn't really do it justice. You have to watch the whole thing. I'll definitely be including that in the description. I'll include a link. But I highly encourage everyone and anyone to check that out. And so I'll get started with Lieutenant Colonel Donald Heckert. He's a retired United States Air Force pilot. And, well, I'll let him more or less explain what he saw.
The 2 documented encounters, and I'm sorry, I'll make sure it's available, but these are the 2 airplanes that I flew that had UFO encounters. The first one was during the latter stages of the Vietnam War. We watched this thing, and it's way above there, and I'm a little relieved, until all of a sudden, through the mid-term of the orbit, it comes from 70,000 feet down to 12,500 feet in 2 seconds.
Again, there's much more to Donald Heckert's story, and I urge everybody to check him out. This next one is Michael Herrera, a U.S. Marine platoon member who witnessed an alien reproduction vehicle, and we'll definitely let him explain what he saw.
In 2009, my unit, which was most degraded infantry battalion in the entire Marine Corps, which was 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, was called in to do humanitarian assistance operations out in the Philippines, which was Operation Quetzana. During that operation in Quetzana in the Philippines, they had actually heard that a tsunami and earthquake hit the western part of Sumatra, which is western Indonesia, Padang City more specifically. Out of all the ships in the 7th Fleet, the ship I was on was the only one that was routed to that location, which was something that was rotating, and it was transitioning between colors like a light matte gray as well as a dark matte black. So in between, that's what it kept, and it was very smooth. You can see that the craft here actually was roughly about 300 feet. And the reason why I know this is because you could fit 3 of the helicopters that we flew in on underneath this craft. It was rotating a clockwise motion. The panels here that you see, the black ones, at least 3 of them, was like a Vanta black, very dark. I have no idea what that was. On the very top, there was like a pyramid structure that you could see the shadowing of it, which would elicit that was a pyramid structure. And it had an audible hum to it, kind of like a guitar amp if you were to unplug that, or like a transformer. It's very audible. If I was to hear that sound again, I could tell you, okay, it's probably this thing or something similar to that. It's very distinct. In the way that it was, so we were engaged. We had 8 of them put the drop on us. You could audibly hear them flow the safety selectors off. They basically started screaming at us, telling us what we were doing. We were not allowed to be there. Who were we with? What were we doing there? Threatened that they could kill us right then and there. We could get lost in the jungle. They could throw us out of a helicopter if they needed to. It was very nerve-wracking at that point, especially looking to my fellow Marines and seeing the reactions on their faces too. We were all freaking scared. They also had these containers that was illustrated right here, which come to find out through recent revelations from yesterday from somebody who came forward to Dr. Greer. I don't know who they are, but what they had told him and what he has told me is that this gentleman knows exactly what these were used for, because they had like a cylinder on the front, which is either for oxygen or what I hypothesized was for vacuum sealing, which lead me to suspect that they were smuggling narcotics or drugs. He had pulled me into an office, and he has said, "You are not allowed to tell anybody in your chain of command. I don't care if it's a general. I don't care if it's anybody. You are not allowed to talk about what happened. You can go to prison for this, or you could be killed." So he slid over a non-disclosure agreement, and it had 2 things that I can recall to this day as I quickly skimmed through it, because again, I had thought we were going to forget about this whole mess. And one was said TSSCI, and the other said Indonesia. There's only 2 things.
So with Michael Herrera, the first question that comes to mind is whether or not this operation was legal. For example, as with a classification and having a certain clearance, are you allowed to threaten other military personnel's lives? I don't believe that's the case, and that's what makes this illegal. And so I definitely side with the Disclosure Project and all these military witnesses when it comes to this issue. And so let's talk about the next one here. The next one is Steve Digna Jr., U.S. Army, at the Mojave Desert Training Facility, also known as the National Training Center. This particular individual, he served from 99 to 2002. That was the exact same years that I served. And I actually went to the National Training Center 2 times. And everything that he was saying, he was speaking like my language pretty much. And I was just very emotional listening to his story. There's some things that I was able to experience while I was in the Mojave Desert, but not to the extent that this man did. And let's check out what he has to say here.
I'm a former sergeant in the United States Army. I began active duty service in 1999, and I served until 2002. I was assigned to the U.S. Army Training Center, W4J9 Alpha Alpha, Fort Irwin, California, located in the Mojave Desert inside Death Valley near the Barstow, California in 2000. Once my eyes adjusted, I could make out the general shape of the craft. There were 2 men from Raytheon present. I pulled out my night vision goggles to get a better look at the craft. It appeared to be generating 7 lights along its wings and underbelly. I noticed another smaller craft oriented on the right side and at the same height as the first craft, approximately 75 feet to 100 yards to its right. The second craft was jet black, V-shaped, pointed towards the first craft. This craft had equally joined, spaced, rectangular sections forming the hull. The craft had a gimbal rack that deployed from the bottom of the craft. Approximately 5 to 6 holographic lights, holographic emitting lights were pointed directly at the first craft. That was my assumption, due to the fact that they were displaying a strange color within my MVG goggles. Anyone that knows the old school, circa 2000 MVGs, they don't emit color. They give you green, grays, and blacks. I was seeing colors within my night vision goggles. This was not normal. And it was my assumption that perhaps this was a hologram being projected from the other craft. I can't confirm that. However, that was my assessment at the time. The reason this event was not reported was due to the fact that it was not unidentified. I'm going to repeat this very clearly to the cameras. This craft was not unidentified. This was one of our birds, and to the observer controller that called that out on the range, I'm not going to put his call sign out. Roger up, eyes on, hands on confirmation. That's our bird, but she doesn't need wind to get lift. She was hovering stationary. They're out there killing people under false pretenses. I've also turned information in that may be able to prove that to the proper authorities, thanks to Dr. Greer and his team. His team so far has been accommodating, polite, honest, respectful, and this man is my new general. He leads the way. So rally up, rally on me. This man is the way. He speaks the truth. He is sound. Apologize.
So another thing that stood out with this particular individual, Steve Digna, was that he mentioned Raytheon, which is an aerospace company. Everybody keeps talking about Lockheed Skunk Works, but what about Raytheon? I believe that they're also involved. They're probably more heavily involved than Lockheed is in regards to back engineering these UFOs. And so let's kind of get this ball moving. I was trying to keep this video very short, but it's really difficult because there's so much information that was covered. The next individual is a former U.S. Army personnel, D.C. Long, and he witnessed something really interesting.
My military service began in 1997 and it stretched to 2013 until I was medically retired, injuries received in a combat jump. Ironically enough, the quick story that I'm going to tell you guys has virtually nothing to do with my military career until it got to the very end of the story. Long story short, we were told that we were going to be met by an escort from the JFK Warfare Center. He shows up. I recognize him as one of my father's friends. I overheard that the place we're going to be going is Range 19. I'd never heard of this place before, hadn't since. There was a monolithic slab directly in front of me that was being held up by nothing. The closer that I got to this slab, I felt an intense vibration inside of my body. I never felt anything like that before in my life, never anything since, but it left no sound. And it was at that time there was a gentleman sitting at the desk, everyone was cleared out, and he had 2 pieces of paper. He said, I need you to sign this NDA. Green light goes off, I get a hit in my back, and then something hits me in the side of the face, and it's a static line. The gentleman to my right, the man that I knew, threw his static line intentionally, and it snapped my neck. I go to fall out of the aircraft, deploy my combat pack, full oscillation. The only thing that I heard after that was the sound that my body made when it broke. When I woke up a month later, I was told that I was not fit to be a Ranger. I was not fit to be airborne. I wasn't fit to be a soldier. My career was effectively over.
So DC Long's story, I didn't do him much justice here. I kept cutting. I had to put out the most pertinent information as far as like ET technology and then back engineer technology as I could. But he goes on and really shares his emotional story. And he was essentially injured, forcibly injured by um, people that he worked for. And I believe that this was a way to silence him. Um, as courageous as he was able to recover from damn near death and homelessness and all. Very difficult time. And he found Dr. Greer, and Dr. Greer helped him to present his information. So, yeah, that was a very compelling case as well. This final witness, he's a former Raytheon worker, and he worked in the South Pole. He did a job there for, I forget how long, maybe a year or so. His name is Eric J. Hecker. Let's listen to what he has to say.
But I'm going to skip right through the chase, folks. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform. Vehicle detection, we're learning that these off-world craft, on-world craft, ours or other nations, are also emitting neutrinos. So this makes the South Pole Station effectively an air traffic control station for this new level of equipment that nobody's discussing. That shows that this is also a system for faster than light communications. In the past, Gary McKinnon has hacked NASA, found the off-world fleet, the list of captains, and it's apparent that if we have faster than light vehicles moving throughout the system, we're going to need faster than light communications. This is that facility. This is an earthquake generating device as well. This is the weapons of war that we have to deal with now and what Raytheon's hiding. If anybody wants to find out more, I have a website where all this information is at. For brevity, I'll wrap it up, but you can go to deciphering.tv. I've documented all of this stuff and information is available.
That was Eric Hecker, former Raytheon contractor. And, well, he got to witness something that can only be described as similar to Star Wars technology. And I know this sounds like science fiction and all, but these are witnesses to these events and this technology that has been back engineered using forcibly crashed, retrieved extraterrestrial technology. And there's a theory that there's electromagnetic weaponry that is used to help force these authentic UAP to crash. And from there, they go to the crash sites and retrieve the technology, take it to a secure facility, back engineer it, and create something similar. I say similar because, as some of the witnesses have described, that these craft have a humming sound similar to like a transformer. So this electrical humming sound is much different than authentic UAP, which do not have any sound at all. And, well, I guess this is the part where I share my personal thoughts. First of all, I'd like to commend Dr. Greer for putting together the Disclosure Project. He's been on this disclosure movement for over 20 years, and he's worked hard to gather all these witnesses. His life has been threatened. A lot of these witnesses also have their lives have been threatened, and he's done his part to help expose these illegal black projects. Now, David Grush, whatever, he is the latest whistleblower that the mass media has more or less started to take notice. And him, along with Congress, Tim Burchett, and others, will be a part of a hearing that's going to be addressing crash retrievals and back engineering. Now, this hearing, as of yet, hasn't been disclosed as far as like who's going to be on it and when it's going to take place. But once it does, rest assured that I'm going to be on it, and I'm going to do my best to gather all the information and put it together as I have in this video and my previous videos, and present it to everyone to try to make it clear, because a lot of times they use language that the average person isn't quite familiar with, or yeah. So I try to like present this using layman's terms and make it easy for people to get this information. But yeah, aside from Dr. Greer and the Disclosure Project and these upcoming congressional hearings on the UAP phenomenon, there's going to be continued sightings, continued reports. I know Arrow is supposed to submit a yearly report sometime this month, June. But yeah, the truth is slowly coming out. Since 2017, it's been a trickle factor, and right now it seems like the faucet was left on, and it's not just trickling anymore. The information's leaking, and hopefully we get some more. I said at the beginning of the year that 2023 is going to be the year where we learn that people like Bob Lazar weren't lying and were actually telling the truth. So hopefully that becomes a fact and becomes known. I urge people to have an open mind whenever they discuss this with others or whenever they listen to anything related to UAP. I urge you to not be skeptical. I challenge you and challenge your beliefs. Become a believer. This is the future of humanity, and we have to be able to embrace the change, although it may be difficult, and it's probably not going to be a easy transition, but we are here, and disclosure is happening right now. Whatever happens next is yet to be seen. I am excited for future revelations, and I am excited to present more information, but more than anything, I'm excited to see some facts about UFOs. That's something I've always been interested in. So once again, thank you so much for checking out my video. I know it was a little bit long, but it was a 3-hour event that I needed to help make a quick analysis on. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment below, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.